Hi, this is Nicole Austin with the Shawn Petite creative team, and I'm going to show you how to make this mixed media canvas. First, I start off with some Ranger Distress ink, and then I wipe off just a bit with the baby wipe just to get some texture. And then I go over with some drips using the Ranger Distress stain, and then add in just a little bit of some white titanium acrylic paint with a palette knife, and it's okay to blend the colors together. Then when that dries, I'm spraying with a stencil with some spray ink, turning over the stencil to get another impression. And then once that's dry, I will go ahead and add a little bit more of the acrylic paint in red and a tiny bit of yellow, and just using my palette knife to play around with the color. Now, a lot of this is going to get covered up in the end, so what I'm really doing is just experimenting with color combinations and textures. Adding some high flow acrylic, and just to get some drips and something just to contrast with that red. And then once that dries, I go in with stencil and some acrylic paint, and then let that dry and offset it just a bit. And then I go over it again with the aqua paint to give it sort of a shadow look. I'm also using the aqua paint to stamp some designs into the background, and then bringing the palette knife back again, just a tiny bit of white. Just what I'm doing is I'm pushing back the background just a little bit. So by adding just a little bit of that white, you're really pushing it back. And then I decide to push the background back a little bit more, and I add a stencil with white acrylic, and getting some kind of plant designs on there, which contrasts really nice with the more abstract background. Then I go on top with some collage pieces, and I know some of it's being covered up, but that's okay. I'm really loving the collage images right now, so I decide to go ahead and just do a little bit more collage on top and a little bit of stenciling as well. I'll go ahead and list all the stencils below in the description, and you can also actually find the stencils in the blog post as well. And when I add the collage, I go ahead and add the acrylic medium behind and on top, and then I also use my finger to sort of spread out any bubbles underneath, and it also gives it a nice smooth finish. Now I'm going back in with some red paint pen, and just I really miss the red that I had kind of played with in the background before, so I'm bringing that back just by adding some of the paint pen marks. Also going over the top with some gold paint pen and some neon pink as well. Just adding a little bit, just brightening up some areas. And I decided I really wanted that red to pop, so I got my acrylic paint pen out in the aqua color, and I'm just outlining the background, and I decided just to keep going with it. I really love that color, and I love the way it's contrasting with the red. So when that dries, I wanted to add, I lost the plants, so I want to bring them back in. So I decide I'm going to use the stencil and a Stabilo pencil to kind of trace the shapes, and then add paint on top of that. You can also sketch or just paint it in however you want, but I decided I wanted to use the stencil as a guideline. And then you can also, once you use the stencil, you can fill out the shapes as much as you want. You'll see as we get along that the leaves get a lot bigger and filled out. So what I usually do is I just outline the leaves and then go back in and fill it in later. I also wanted to kind of paint the edges as well. So I went in with just some acrylic paint just around the edges, and then I also wanted to frame the whole image. And so I just brushed it just over the top of the edge of the canvas, and make sure you get an even amount around all four corners, all four edges. And when the plant dried, I decided I wanted to go in and give it some detail work. So I go in with the white paint pen, the really fine tip paint pen, and outline the leaves and give the leaves some line work just to really let those leaves pop out. And then I'm adding some numbers with a stencil and some black paint, and then going in and just painting in just to sharpen up the image just a little bit. Now this is where I get a little bit fussy as we get towards the end. I'm just right now playing with adding different things to the background. So I'm taking my fine point pen and just outlining things, especially those numbers, trying to make them pop, and also adding any little doodles or scribbles or marks to the background. Here I'm just scribbling, and every time you add something to the layer, you push things back and you kind of lose some things. So here I'm just playing, I'm just trying to figure out what do I want the final composition to look like. Now I'm adding just a little bit of collage. I just used a typewriter and typed out some words on graph paper and collaged it in. And once you add collage on top of a busy layer, you also want to go back with your paint. Here I'm doing the paint pens, and I'm just going over just a little bit just to blend it all in. And I just decided, you know what, I want that turquoise to come back again. So I'm just going around, tracing around now the plant and leaves, just to really get those leaves to stand out. I still want to keep some of the background, so I don't want to go too crazy here. Also decided to highlight the collaged words and just used a black paint pen and some scribbles around the edges, and then went in with paint marker, with a blue paint marker, to do some scallops across the top and some kind of flower shapes, and then also using my white paint pen again to kind of push that back and add some scribbly elements. Also adding some lines and dots to the inside of the leaves. I also painted in just a little bit with red and gold in some of the leaves, and then I added at the end, I went ahead and added just a little bit of the high flow acrylic again that I had lost in the first layer. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're inspired to create something unique.